Chapter 52, The Rape of Dinah, Genesis 34, 1-31. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. And when Shechem the son of Hamor the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her, and lay with her, and defiled her. And his soul clave unto Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle in the field, and Jacob held his peace until they were come. And Hamor the father of Shechem went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. And Hamor communed with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you, give her him to wife. And make ye marriages with us, and give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you. And ye shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade ye therein, and get you possessions therein. And Shechem said unto her father and unto her brethren, Let me find grace in your eyes, and what ye shall say unto me I will give. Ask me never so much dowry and gift, and I will give according as ye shall say unto me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father deceitfully, and said, Because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said unto him, We cannot do this thing to give our sister to one that is uncircumcised, for that were a reproach unto us. But in this will we consent unto you, if ye will be as we be, that every male of you be circumcised. Then will we give our daughter unto you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not hearken unto us to be circumcised, then will we take our daughter, and we will be gone. And the words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. And the young man deferred not to do the thing, because he had delight in Jacob's daughter, and he was more honourable than all the house of his father. And Hamor and Shechem his son came unto the gate of their city, and communed with the men of their city, saying, These men are peaceable with us, therefore let them dwell in the land, and trade therein, for the land, behold, it is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us for wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only herein will the men consent unto us for to dwell with us, to be one people, if every male among us be circumcised as they are circumcised. Shall not their cattle and their substance, and every beast of theirs be ours? Only let us consent unto them, and they will dwell with us. And unto Hamor and unto Shechem his son hearkened all that went out of the gate of the city, and every male was circumcised, all that went out of the gate of his city. And it came to pass on the third day, when they were sore, that two of the sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brethren, took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword, and took Dinah out of Shechem's house, and went out. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain, and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. They took their sheep, and their oxen, and their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, Ye have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me, and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. And they said, Should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? Genesis 34, 1-31. In this chapter, we have the account of the rape of Dinah and the murder of the men of Shechem by Simeon and Levi. Very commonly, blame is readily laid on many in this episode. Dinah for gadding about, Jacob for doing a poor job of rearing his sons, and so on. The text has none of this. Dinah, who was probably in her early teens, went out to visit other girls in the area. She apparently had become acquainted with them. This was not a foolhardy thing on her part, and no doubt both Leah and Jacob knew what she was doing. It was an immoral era, but there were customs which normally protected a girl like Dinah. Persons who were members of a powerful family were not normally molested. Abraham commanded 318 trained fighting men, Genesis 14:14. Under Isaac, their number had doubtless increased, and they were now available to Jacob, who had his own men. Then, too, there was Esau with 400 men readily available. Under normal circumstances, a girl like Dinah would have as protection the general knowledge of her family's power. I recall as a high school student, when families were stronger, one youth telling another about a girl, "Don't fool around with her. Don't you know who her family is?" In that case, it was a prosperous Portuguese family. Normally, Dinah would have been safe. Shechem, the son of Hamor, the prince of that area, a Hivite, believed, however, that his position and his father would give him protection. Then and now in some areas of the world, daughters of unimportant men have no protection, whereas being a member of a powerful family is a very powerful safeguard. But senseless Shechem, Hamor's son, quote, took her, Dinah, and lay with her, and defiled her, humbled her. Verse 2. Shechem found himself at once so attracted to his victim that, quote, he loved the damsel, and spake kindly unto the damsel. Verse 3. The Jewish Publication Society of America, in its translation of the Masoretic text, gives us this reading. Shechem, quote, spoke comfortingly unto the damsel, end quote. His goal now became marriage, and he spoke to his father so as to arrange it. Normally, marriages then and throughout much of history involved the whole family because the bride was brought into an important position in the family. Verse 4. For Hamor, a dangerous act by his son offered a potential for great gain. The inhabitants of Shechem were apparently of sufficient numbers to absorb Jacob's family so that it would disappear into their population. In addition, the great wealth of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob would be a very great asset. Hamor therefore proposed a union of the peoples as a part of the marriage, verses 8 to 12. Marriages have at times not only made peace between tribes and clans, but have also been steps towards mergers. For Hamor, a potential disaster could be turned into a major advantage. Jacob had waited until his sons, who were afield with their livestock, could return before making a decision. This was necessary on his part. A major family crisis required a family council, and the decision, as expressed by his sons, verse 13, was that marriages and a clan merger were for them religious acts. Would the Shechemites be ready to accept circumcision and the covenant and its law? Would they change their religion? The men of Shechem were agreeable because the advantages were considerable. Such a union would have meant, of course, replacing the covenant people with another. Behind their words, the sons of Jacob concealed their fury. We are told that, quote, the men were very grieved, and they were very wroth, because he has wrought folly in Israel in lying with Jacob's daughter, which thing ought not to be done. Verse 7. We are aware of Hamor's self-promoting goal. Jacob was not. For his sons, there was anger at the affront to family honour. They rightly saw it as folly, nabelo in the Hebrew, wickedness. Hamor's plan, if they grasped it, would have topped Dinah's rape with the quote-unquote rape of Jacob's tribe. Shechem himself, for all his evil in raping Dinah, was, we are told, quote, more honourable than all the house of his father, verse 19, which does not say too much for the Shechemites. As a result of Jacob's assent and Hamor's agreement, all the male Shechemites were circumcised, verse 24. In adults, circumcision can incapacitate a man for a week. On the third day, when all the males were most handicapped and barely able to get around, Simeon and Levi killed all the males of Shechem and took Dinah and left, verses 25 to 27, Not only so, they took all their livestock, their wealth, and their womenfolk, young and old. Verses 28 and 29. The reaction of Jacob was one of horror. First, he tells them, "You have made me to stink in all the land. You have fouled my reputation." Second, what is to prevent others, since we are fewer in number than the Canaanites and the Perizzites, from waiting to destroy us? Jacob assumed that others would react with the same moral outrage as he did. It was assuming too much. Nothing happens because such an act was more likely to gain admiration than anger from an evil people. The answer of Levi and Simeon was, "Should he deal with our sister as an harlot?" Verse 31. Family codes have had their evils, and this was an aspect of that evil because its doctrine of righteousness was narrow and unjust. Jacob never recovered from his moral indignation and horror over this episode. On his deathbed, he refers to it and curses the anger of the two sons. Genesis 49, 4-7. He still burned with shame over the incident. It was the way of Canaan, not of Israel. Jacob had called in his sons on learning of the rape, but the family council was not a covenant council. The family is God's basic unit of government, but the family is no more immune to the fall and human depravity than any man or institution. As a covenant man, Jacob, Israel, a prince with God, now saw his sons as covenant breakers. Jacob's fear, however, of Canaanite vengeance was not realized. The manpower resources of Isaac, Esau, and Jacob were so great that few would dare attack them. Levi and Simeon were apparently more keenly aware of this because, as sinners, they thought pragmatically, whereas their father thought morally.